So the gas metal arc welding process, the thing that we're going to go over on the video, uses a continuous electrode. Okay, that means that electrode comes out all the time while you're welding. This is that spool that I showed you in there. So what happens is, we have to make a complete circuit between the electrode that's right here on the end and what's called the work lead. Okay, now as welders we call this a ground clamp. Work lead is the proper term. When we're out here talking, I'll tell you to connect your ground. But this does not ground the machine, meaning if there was an electrical short in the machine where the 460 got in the case of the machine, this is not going to save your life. Okay? The grounding wire is actually in here. But as welders we call it a ground. Don't forget to connect your ground. That continuous electrode comes out when I pull the trigger. There's an electrical contactor in here that closes the circuit. That puts the potential electricity right here. When this machine is on and running, I can touch this to this, it will not weld. It doesn't make no sparks. Now stick welding, that's not the case. The electrode's always hot. If I was to pull the trigger though, you'll hear a couple things happen. You hear the contactor close, that's the click. The wire will begin to move. There's a set of rolls that moves it, and you'll hear the gas come out. That's also a gas solenoid that's inside the machine. So all three of those things happen at once. If I don't want to weld and I don't want to make fire, I need to be careful where the trigger is. Okay? If I'm looking at something, I want to be careful about putting that thing down there like that, especially when there's noise in the shop. Okay, that can be a safety hazard. You're not paying attention to how you're holding the gun. That wire runs out. So it's not going to make a spark like a weld now, so you can see it. But it runs out a little bit. Oh, man, you ain't going to do nothing without this. So that wire, the copper color's kind of gone on it. It's hot right now. It's very, very hot. You don't want to reach out and grab it. Okay? That is a safety hazard that can be a problem in your booth. Just cut it off, put it aside. Okay? The other safety hazard I was talking about in there is after I cut this off, it's very sharp. Okay? Not a big deal. Just be aware of what you're doing with it. Okay? Don't reach down and grab the MIG gun with no gloves on. You may jab that through your hand. When you're putting in new wire, you got to put new wire in here and go pull the trigger and run the new wire through. You don't want to be stabbing here like this. When I wonder where that wire is going to come through at, because when it does come through, it's going to come through with enough force and it'll be sharp enough it may go through your thumb right there. There's a reason I know about that one. Okay? So just be aware of that. Now the regular welding hazard still exists. The light, there's a little bit of smoke generated off of this. It's not like stick welding. Okay? The smoke is not as heavy, but there are still small metal particles that get in the air. Okay? With this ventilation on, they're not going to be a problem. Okay? Even out in the shop, not going to be a problem. Where they do become a problem though, is when I get my head down here like this welding, right over the top of it, smoke gets on there. Okay? If the smoke's getting on your welding hood, it's probably getting in your nose a little bit. You're not going to die from it. Okay? If I exercised, I would probably be a regular, healthy, 58-year-old fat guy. Okay? You know, I haven't been affected negatively by this yet. I've had many, many chest x-rays over the years. Okay? But if I get my head in front of it like this, now the smoke's not going to rise up and get to me quite as big. Okay? So that's another hazard, is the smoke. The electrical shock. Okay? Electrical shock can happen. If I come over and I lean up against this table, and let's just say I'm sweating a little bit, and then I pull this trigger a little bit, and I touch that wire, I'm going to get a little Edison medicine. Okay? Right now, I don't feel anything. If there was a tear in the back of my pants where my bare skin got on there, it'd give me a little bit. If my bare skin was on there and I was wet, both on my hands and on my back right here, then it would hit me even harder. Okay? So being dry is kind of important when you're welding. By the way, if you run the wire out, you can take a video of it. Come over and see it. You can flip this open right here. These are what's called my drive rolls on the machine. I can open those up and just pull it back. If it was just 2 or 3 inches of wire, just cut it off. It ain't a big deal. But if you've run out a bunch of it and you've left that thing back there and it didn't actually get hot, run it back up in there is fine. Other safety hazard is when you are changing the wire. Okay? If I'm over here changing my wire and feeding it through here, and someone else has got the MIG gun and they pull the trigger, those little drive rolls, when they turn, they're off of a 24-volt DC motor and a big gearbox that reduces it down. It's got a lot of torque. It's probably going to pinch your fingertip pretty good. Okay? So you don't want to have your finger in there, someone else out here, and you not know what's going on. Safest thing, turn the machine off when you change the wire. Then once you get the wire fed in here, you can turn it back on, pull the trigger, and feed it through. Okay? So that's a hazard. Another hazard is the gas. Step over here by the gas bottle, where you can kind of see them a little bit. So these compressed gas cylinders hold about 2,400 pounds per square inch. That means if I was to have a 1 inch by 1 inch square right here, and that 1 inch square were to shoot out because of the pressure in this bottle, there would be 2,400 pounds of force in it. Okay? So they're dangerous. Now these bottles are tough. They last forever. It's hard to destroy one of them. Okay? However, this valve up here on the top, it's made out of bronze. That bronze is not as tough as the steel. The bottle falls over, knocks that bronze valve off, that 2,000 psi, 2,400 psi that's in there shoots out the end of the bottle. The bottle's going to spin around in the shop. It may go up in the air. The bottle weighs 100, 110 pounds or more. It's going to hurt somebody. Okay? So there's a hazard right there. The other hazard is, because it is high pressure, if I turn this on too rapidly, I can cause the regulator to fail. So typically with a high pressure cylinder, I open it up slowly. There's 2 gauges on here. On this specific type of regulator, this is called a regulator, it drops the pressure from 2,400 psi or whatever's in the bottle down to a working pressure that will work in this hose. Because if we had 2,000 pounds of pressure in this little plastic hose, it's going to blow it up. It ain't going to work. Okay? So this drops the pressure down. Then this drops it down, or the flow rate, even more, because there's a certain amount of gas we want to use when we are MIG welding. Our typical setting is going to be 30 cubic feet per hour. There's some numbers on here, and we'll get more in depth about how the regulator system works. But one of the other hazards about this, not a big deal here, but I may have mentioned the other day, let's just say you've got your own MIG welder. I talk about your own MIG welder in the basement, Fluffy? Okay, so here it is. Let's just say you had somebody that had one of these bottles right here, and they said you could use it. And you've got a basement that you've been told, yeah, you can go down there and weld in it. And let's just say it's only a 10-foot by 20-foot basement. Okay, that's all that it is. There's not an exterior door for it. There's no windows up above it. You go down the stairs, you've done towing this 110-pound bottle downstairs, and you didn't kill yourself doing it. Then you hook your regulator up, you hook your weld machine up, you turn it on, you weld a little bit with it, and then you decide, hey, that was fun, I'm going to go do something else. I'll come back later, and you leave your bottle on. However, your hose here has a leak in it. Big leak. Okay? You let it sit for a day or two. You didn't shut your bottle off. You come back later, you've got 200 cubic foot or 200 square feet of floor space. Okay? On your floor. That's a 10 by 20 room. This bottle has 300 cubic feet of gas in it. That means it could take a 300 square foot floor and fill it up 1.5 feet. Okay? Or a foot. With a 200, it's going to go up a little bit higher than a foot. So you left that on. You go downstairs to weld later, the next day or the day after, and Fluffy comes with you, the little chihuahua. Fluffy's going to hit that argon. Argon does not support oxygen. It doesn't support human life. It's heavier than air. It's kind of like water. So it's almost like Fluffy just walked down in the basement and got in water that deep. Only thing is Fluffy's not going to notice it quite as quick. And after Fluffy takes a couple breaths, Fluffy's going to drop over dead. Same thing can happen to you. You're welding in a trash dumpster, or you decide you're going to weld something on the inside of a 55-gallon drum, building something. You left your MIG gun in there. There was a leak. You lean over in the drum, get your friend, say, "Help my legs up. I got a weld on the bottom." They turn you upside down. Just a couple breaths before you go unconscious. Okay? Now, luckily, your friends might be there. They may pull you out and give you some CPR. Then you got to deal with that emotionally. But that's a danger with these bottles. Okay? So just keep that in mind. I've been using them for years. I've seen bottles that have been stamped that were made in 1918. These have got a required inspection every 10 years on them. The Department of Transportation requires that you inspect these bottles a certain way. They fill them up, they test them with pressure, they do some other inspections on them. I've seen some that were built in 1918 because that's the first stamp that I saw. And that was actually before 1918 or 2018 when I saw them. So they're very tough, okay, but they also are hazardous. There's a video online you can look at, Russian welding truck explosion. It shows one of these bottles and a bunch of other bottles shooting up in the air, probably a good 50 or 60 foot. So you can imagine a 110-pound hunk of steel falling 50 or 60 foot. When it hits you, it's not going to really slow down for your soft, mushy human flesh. Okay? So those are kind of the safety hazards that we've got to control, be aware of. Ventilation. This switch right here has got to be pointed up. Okay? Some of the boosts, one of the boosts, the light in here is hardwired into the switch. So if the switch goes like that, this doesn't turn on. So I've got to turn that up. Press it on. So you see it gets kind of loud. With all of them running, it gets real loud. But that will remove the smoke out of your breathing zone. If I get my head in here like this, right on the top of it, I might get some of it. I want to get in front of it where I can see it. There's a light right here. They've been through a lot, but I do have a couple more light bulbs to help you see. Now while you're welding, that may actually hurt you some. If you get your hood here like this, the light's going to shine in the back of it, you're going to see a reflection in your lens. But all in all, it's a very, very safe process. Like I said, compared to stick welding, you ain't got to worry about the electricity getting on you until you pull the trigger. Okay? It doesn't make as much smoke as stick welding. It can be adjusted in certain transfer mode used where it doesn't even make very many sparks. It makes more than stick welding, but it doesn't make very many. Okay? So about the welding booth. Again, ventilation right here sucks everything out of the way. There will normally be a set of tools in here, and we'll talk about what these tools are for just a little bit. There should be some type of pliers for grabbing stuff. Okay? They may be different styles, different types, but there should be some type of pliers in the booth that are different than these pliers. These are specifically for MIG welding. Okay? And they do a few things. If I had to take my nozzle off to save wear and tear on my gloves because my nozzle's smoking hot, a little circle back there in the back, I grab that and pull it off, set my nozzle aside. Same thing if I want to take my contact tip out. This thing is called the contact tip. That's the last place the electricity meets the wire. That's the thing where the distance that it sticks out from here to here makes a difference on your electricity. Okay. Anyway, if I want to take my tip off, little bitty hole right there, grab that and turn it. I got it loose. This thing right here with the little holes in it is called the gas diffuser. The shielded gas comes all the way through the welding machine, goes through a hose inside the gun, it comes out those little bitty holes there, fills up the nozzle. If I did have to take that off, then I might be able to use this, or I might have to get a regular pair of pliers, but it also comes off. These typically don't wear out right here. This little thing that's on the inside, it looks like a wound up spring, that's the liner. Okay? Because this wire's hard steel, I can't just run it through a rubber hose. If I ran it through a rubber hose all the time, it would eventually cut the rubber. So there's a metal liner in here that kind of keeps the wire straight, helps it push through there. If that thing gets a sharp kink or a bend in it, by the way, because you did that with a gun, or you pulled it up on here and you tied it up too tight, it doesn't feed wire very well. But that's my gas diffuser. Got the holes in it. That's my liner. It runs all the way from here, all the way to the drive roll, all the way back. This is one of those cases where when I'm putting all this stuff on, I ain't got no gloves. I want to be aware of pulling the trigger or just shut the power off. Best way to go. Ain't got to get super tight, super ugly with them. Just a little squeeze. The contact tip is a specific size for your wire. Are you on your phone? Are you on your phone? Get up. Clock right there. We got 20 minutes. We'll go take a break. The tips will get covered up with stuff on the end of them from the sparks jumping off, so every once in a while you got to clean them. One of the ways I can clean them just a little bit if I'm careful is taking my pliers, try to rub some of that stuff off, or try to cut it off. But if I get too aggressive with it, it'll put a little dent in the end of where that hole is at. It doesn't feed wire very well. Okay? The tips wear out a little bit, they get damaged a little bit, the weld spatter will get up in them. It makes the process not work very well. Okay? Again, they got to be super tight. The other thing that the pliers is for is for cleaning the nozzle. So those little sparks and stuff that come off the process jump up inside here. After they build up too much, they'll make that hole close up. When that hole closes up, the gas can't get through there very easily. So I can take the tip of these pliers, you just notice they're square on the edges, stick them in there. When I take the tip off, kind of go back and forth with it, it will rake some of that stuff out of there. I can grab some of it with the pliers, clean it up. But these, the tapered ends right here, are designed to go in there, kind of ream that back and forth. When you look in the end of your MIG gun and you see a bunch of stuff built up on this, probably time to clean it. Okay. Another thing I want to be careful. Bare hands. Again, bare hands in the shop, not necessarily a good idea. It's almost a good idea to always have gloves on, but we forget sometimes. But one of the things I want to be aware of, even with gloves on, my wire's sticking out about that far. I've got one of these nozzles and it maybe got a little bit dented right here on the end. It's hard to get on. I come over here like this and I start pushing, bearing down on it. Run out of my hand. Okay, it will go through your gloves if it's short enough. So put the nozzle on and off. Be aware of where it's at. Okay, open your hand up, make sure you don't dab it in the base of your hand. The wire cutters that are on here are for snipping your wire off to the right length. Now what we want to use for electrical stick out, how much wire sticking out while we're welding, is typically going to be 3/8 of an inch from the end of the tip to the end of the wire. So that little groove, that little hole on this side right here, I can almost put this where that's flush with the end of the tip. And that gets me a pretty good stick out for most of the welding that we're going to do. Okay, that gives me a good gauge. Now, sometimes you may have a gas cup that's really, really long and a tip that's really short, and your stick out that you can see is that long, but there's actually more up inside the nozzle, and you can't see it. In that case, then you would have to shorten up your stick out just a little bit, and trimming it like that would not work. Y'all got any questions about that? Everybody understands it? Probably not as exciting as the Bob Weld video, but that kind of covers most of it. One other thing about the booth, when you get done at the end of the day, if I tell you to clean up, now first and second period I will usually say don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. Or we'll let the afternoon class take care of it. But the proper way to roll up the MIG leads, when I was talking about the liner earlier, if I put a sharp kink or a bend in this, it makes it hard for the wire to get through it. So when I roll up the MIG leads, here's what I want. I want you to roll it over the handle. Try not to have the work lead and the MIG lead tied up together. What I don't want to have is anything laying on the floor. And I don't want this to come down below that little bar right there. If you come up tighter, I don't want it to come below. But I also don't want it to come in tight like this, where someone pulls it that tight. And the reason for that is someone could decide they're going to take the weld lead off and just tug on it like this. That's going to put a sharp kink or a bend in it right there and bend that liner. So we want this kind of loose up here. This work lead, doesn't matter about it. Okay, it ain't got nothing in it that's going to get bent or damaged. But I just want it on one handle. Don't care which one. I want this rolled up kind of loose. I don't want anything down below here. And I want this where it's not down below here. Then on the stick machine, when you roll those up, each lead goes on one of these pegs. Don't roll them up together. Don't take both of these and roll them up. Don't take both of these and roll them up together. Make it separate. Y'all got any questions? All right, I reckon that's it. You can shut it off. Chris, that.